You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile we put Ghana first. So, my guest to help us with the first discussion, Dr. Yao, he's Secretary General of the Trades Union Congress. Samuel Dubik Mahama is Managing Director of the Electricity Company of Ghana. Ofosu Amwa is Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission. We have others who will join us for the other segments of the discussion. But as you are aware, or you may be aware, the Finance Minister issued a statement, and I share it with you. Implementation of value-added tax, VAT, on the supply of electricity above the lifeline for residential purpose. As part of the implementation of the government's medium-term revenue strategy and the IMF-supported post-COVID-19 program for economic growth, PCPEG, the implementation of VAT for residential customers of electricity above the maximum consumption level specified for block charges for lifeline units in line with Section 35 and 37, and the Fair Schedule 9 of the Value Added Tax VAT Act 2013 has been scheduled for implementation effective 1st January 2024. For the avoidance of doubt, VAT is still exempt for, quote, a supply to a dwelling of electricity up to a minimum consumption level specified for block charges for lifeline units, end quote, in line with Section 35 and 37 and the First Schedule 9 of the Act. The Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, and the Northern Electricity Distribution Company, NEDCO, are hereby requested to liaise with the Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, to ensure that the implementation of VAT for residential customers of electricity above the maximum consumption level specified for block charges for lifeline unit takes effect on the 1st of January 2024, in line with the sections and schedule already mentioned above. By a copy of this letter, GRA is requested to ensure that it liaises with ECG and NEDCO for the transfer of the revenues collected from the implementation of VAT on the subject matter as part of its domestic VAT collection. We are counting on your usual cooperation in this regard. Ken Oforiatta, Minister, and distributed to those who must have copies. Dr. Yao, you have been very straightforward in saying that this will not work. You said, you guys say, we won't pay. And you have given government 7 days ultimatum to completely scrap this. We are broke. We're in IMF. We need help. We must begin to help ourselves. Is that not what is being done? Did I lose Dr. Yao? Okay, let me try if Ofosu Amwa has a good connection. Thank you for joining us also. What do you say? What do you say to the question I just asked, Ofosu Amwa? Okay, so we understand we have a little difficulty with our lines there, but we'll try and get those two gentlemen back on the line. So, Engineer Benata, thank you very much for making time to join us on this. Are you there?
Thank you. Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much.
Great.
And let me greet all your viewers and listeners as well.
why should we not be paying this? Why should we not begin the process of the economic recovery from home?
Something. You may agree with me and possibly agree with government that our revenue sits in our home. And therefore, if there is a need for government to mobilize any revenue, especially from fair wages point of view, to be able to pay the necessary compensation to public sector workers, obviously, we need to mobilize the revenue. So if at some point in time, organized labor does not agree with government with one tax or the other, there is a need to really sit down and look at the issue. The demonstrations, the ultimatums, and the rest have their place elsewhere. But in this issue of nation building, I think we should commit ourselves to dialoguing. And from our point of view, government indeed needs revenue. Do not forget that for the past week, a number of unions have agitated. A couple of them had been on strike asking for payment of their Tier 2 and the rest. So obviously, if we are the same people to be able to support government to raise revenue in order to also take care of us, why not? Why not? But
all right. So just kindly hold on for me. Let me go back to the Secretary General of the TUC, Dr. Yauba. Dr. Yauba, so I'm saying that the 15% VAT on electricity, you say that's a killer tax, we won't pay, 7 days ultimatum, government must just withdraw it. Why?
I'm sure you know why, and all your listeners know why. As the situation we find ourselves in this country, I don't think what we need is more taxes. We need something else to build some relation to the people of Ghana. What we need, what we want our leaders to do, is not taxes and taxes more all the time, especially poor people. We need something else, not taxes. And we are hoping that they will listen to us, so there will be peace in this country, because we will never accept that tax again. And we have made it very, very clear to government.
You will never accept, but in the communication to the right authorities that are supposed to begin the collection of the tax, which is supposed to be effective the 1st of January, the finance minister's communication was clear. This is part of the process to economic recovery. We're already here. We need to come out of the pit. So we must help ourselves. Is that not what he's doing?
Yeah, there are many other options. And that is why stakeholders must come together to discuss where we are, we agree where we are going. Where the situation we find ourselves in, it is not the finance ministry which is going to take us out. It is all Ghanaians, especially stakeholders in industry, in labor, and even the political parties. All of us must come together, farmers, and all. So we discuss and agree where we are, we discuss and agree where we are going. This idea that wisdom is in the head of only people in government, we should learn to change that kind of perception. I can assure you that if we come together, all of us together, in one room, we will find a solution that will not involve taxing poor people, going into their houses to tax whatever is happening over there. It is not right. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you have an IMF program or not. The situation we found ourselves in the last 2-3 years, it is irresponsible on the part of government to tax Ghanaians again. It is not right. We can change it. Or I challenge them to bring all the stakeholders together. And my brother, I can assure you this country will get out of this mess.
I realize that the focus has been on the VAT on electricity.
Yes.
And that is in paragraph 9 of the schedule to the law. But in paragraph 8 of the schedule to the law is the same tax for water. It says supply of water, excluding water commonly supplied in bottles or other packaging suitable for supply to consumers. Then 9 says supply to a dwelling of electricity up to a maximum consumption level specified for block charges for lifeline units.
Yes, absolutely.
In much of what we have heard you talk about, your focus has been on electricity because, of course, the finance minister issued a letter asking that the collection should begin. But the law, in the law, it is not only electricity, it affects water as well.
Yeah, but this law was passed in 2013. This is 10 years ago. And no government has ever dared to implement them. I mean, these are not good laws. The laws themselves are still. You know, we have found ourselves, the fact that there's a law that we need to implement it. We are in a different situation. And every responsible government will, make sure before you implement a law, the society can fix it. We are in a situation where we cannot. And so what we need to do is change the law. Make sure Kenyans are a bit more sympathetic. This is not a big law. It's easy and honorable. And so we expect government to use this project to change it instead of implementing it.
The finance minister and government generally have been preaching burden sharing. Burden sharing.
Yes.
Shouldn't that be our attitude as citizens? Because you just said that it takes all of us to get out of the problem that we have been, sunk into.
Let me tell you, if we get together, we can actually do our burden. If we say that it's just giving direct now, because the burden cannot be reduced, it cannot be avoided in the I want to show if the young people together, they will tell the Minister of Finance how to reduce the burden, not how to tell it. Even if we manage to reduce the burden and the regulations there, then you have to understand. But you don't go increase the burden for the people and preach that you should share.
You gave a 7-day ultimatum.
Yes.
What is today, and what responses are you getting from government, and what are your plans?
We've got some responses. I'm not sure if I have to discuss that. Even when I was driving this morning, I received some phone calls. I'm not sure if I should discuss this on radio. But we gave up to 31st of this month. Today is 27th. We don't have a lot of time. And I hope that this government will act very quickly, to ensure there is peace in this country. Otherwise, I can assure you, my brother, after 31st, you will hear from organized labor. We are committed, we are determined that this tax will never be implemented. And we will do whatever it takes for government to take the stand on it.
Is it not instructive that even though there have been instructions for the collections to begin or the charge to begin, and yet it has not started?
Our sense are that they have not started. I mean, these people they have to reconfigure their system to start. But I don't think there's a need to reconfigure anything because this tax will never start. It will never be implemented in this country called Ghana. We will not allow it.
The law should be repealed. The law should be revoked.
Yes, because the part law.
All right. Thank you very much. Dr. Yaba is the Secretary General of the TUC. And as I tried to introduce to you earlier, and we didn't have a good connection, or we just didn't have him on the line at the time. let's attempt to speak to Ofosu Amwa, who is Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission. Okay, so now let me finish up with Engineer Ben Arthur of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. But you must be concerned about organized labor's, posture to this. And now in our various educational institutions and elsewhere, there are threats of, strike actions because people have difficulties, and yet the government is seeking to slap more taxes on them. And you are not giving them extra pay.
Hello?
Yes, Ben.
Something is not exactly the point that we have explained. Do not forget that in 2023, government increased public sector pay by 30%.
That's correct.
And for me, that is the biggest jump in the history of this country.
But it's important to know what the value of that money is today.
Yeah, so do not also forget that this year, and for those who received their pay in January can confirm to you, that government again increased the pay of public sector workers by 23%. That is for the first half of the year. And then in the second half of the year, an additional 2% to make it 25%. So it is not correct that government has done nothing about the pay of workers in this country.
So it's not a good excuse to say that the ordinary person is being overburdened with taxes without commensurate, as it were, remuneration.
I have not done the mathematics to support exactly what you say, but you must side with me that government needs to mobilize revenue. Where are we going to get it from? Obviously, it has to come from us. But of course, if there's a section of the public that is aggrieved, especially public sector workers, and the workers of this country are aggrieved about the policy or a law that has been passed by Parliament, definitely for implementation, there's a need to dialogue. And for me, demonstrations and ultimatums might serve their purpose, but that is not the best of approach. Dialogue is the way forward. It is also important that even as we demand what we think is due us, we do not cause mayhem. We do not destabilize the peace that we have as a country. And for me, that is very paramount. We've done this over and over and over again for many years of dialoguing and making sure that we have always had a solution that fits the individual interest. So government definitely will be dialoguing, and especially for those of us who are pay administrators, anything that relates to pay, as we have always demonstrated, we are always willing to dialogue. You should not forget something. Yourself, you are a lawyer, and you know in the Constitution, we are mandated as citizens of this country to also contribute our quota. So the question is, in this challenging time, where is our quota? What must we do? And how must we do it? So we all have the joint responsibility to make this nation work. So if government is asking, I do not think that it is the joy of any government in this country to be imposing taxes every day and night. I do not think so. But we have a challenge that must be resolved. In times past, when government could not raise revenue, and we had very difficult times, what government resorted to was to lay off workers. You and I have been long in this country to start in the 80s, when there were a lot of retrenchment, layoff, and the rest. Is that what we want to witness in this country? Obviously, no worker, especially in the public sector, is willing to welcome such news. That is an alternative for government in order to cut down its budget. That's also an alternative, but is it an alternative that speaks to the well-being of our colleagues who work in the public sector? So there is a need to strike a delicate balance
Right. But the Constitution, yes, the Constitution you refer to, that imposes a duty and obligation on all of us in Article 41 to help the country cooperate for the enforcement of all that is necessary to make the country a good place. Also says that people must work conscientiously in their lawfully chosen occupation, and they are saying that they are working conscientiously and they are not getting what is their due, and they are seeing the leadership engage in waste. And that same provision speaks about people having to protect and preserve public property and expose and combat misuse and waste of public funds and property. So it's the two must go hand in hand.
I agree with you. You know, when it comes to pay administration, I'm well able to speak to that issue. But you raise a concern whether people are remunerated adequately or not. You must place it in its proper context of capacity of a nation to be able to do what we are asking for as a nation. I must be proud that in Ghana, we are one of the few countries that sees employment as a fundamental human right. And being a lawyer, you know that the right to employment and the protection of one's employment are part of the fundamental human right. Because of these entrenched positions of our law, government has a predisposition towards protection of employment. And do not forget that when we had COVID, and it necessitated that some numbers of our workers needed to be trained, government opted for the option of protecting the employment and keeping their pay intact.
All right.
And for those who stayed at home, that because of the exigencies of the time we could not engage them, they were all paid. So it is not always the case that government wants to take something from workers. It is not always the case that government wants to impose taxes that are unpopular. Mind you, 2024 is an election year, and if there were not any demanding necessities that are very overburdening on all of us, no government in this status will want to bring a new tax to become unpopular.
All right, thank you very much, Benata. Benata of the CEO of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, also making an appeal to those who are intending to get into various forms of, mass actions over the economic hardships, while taxes are also being imposed on electricity and also on water, but that one has not yet kicked in. Ofusama, Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission, it's going to be a very busy year for you. How are you seeing things? This is the very start of the year, the first month.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, please, could you repeat your question?
We're starting the year on such a note of potential tensions in the labor front. How are you assessing the situation, and what are your plans? What should be done so that they don't happen in the first place?
Oh, thank you very much for calling and giving the audience this platform. Actually, if you look at the way things have worked in the past, when it's getting to the election year, there is this mass citizen and protest. Everybody will want to get what he wants or what he deserves. So as a commission, we are prepared for it. At least that is what we are created to do, to solve problems and to make sure that the industrial and the labor front is quiet. Our service-member commission are up to the task. We are very experienced people and committed to doing the work. Of course, we have the assistance of our mediators and arbitrators and all the efforts we can tap on. We've also tried to cultivate the relationship with the union leaders of course, the employers and the government to make sure that we are successful in keeping the industry and the labor force quiet. Of course, like you just heard from, I think the CEO of Ferry, and of the fact of notoriety, things are not easy for employers, neither is it easy for government when it comes to payment. And in the same way, for the workers and employees like you and I, it's not easy for us because we all have responsibilities and duties. I mean, where we all need money to perform. So it's not easy for any of us. So it's a matter of sacrifice, giving concessions, negotiation, and coming out with the best. So that's the problem now.
All right, we wish you the best as you start the year on such a note in your offices. Now, let me come into the studio and speak to Samuel Dubik Mahama, who is the head of the Electricity Company of Ghana, to whom the letters were directed to, together with the GRA, to make sure that the 15% VAT on, Lifeline is collected. He has also been speaking and actually feels that the tax will be very difficult to implement unless certain things are done. So, from where you sit, the government's plan is that help the state to get more money because we need to get out of IMF. We need to take care of ourselves. And the instructions have been given to you and the GRA to collect the money. So, how come we're hearing you say it's going to be difficult to collect this money?
Good morning. This brings us back to the fact that when a letter is sent to you and the letter doesn't belong to you, and you read the letter, you would pick what you want to pick out of it and leave what you want to leave out of it. If you read the letter, there's a major conjunction there that says liaise. As an implementation organization, what we have to do is look at liaise, because liaise will come with a lot of implementation structures. This is something that has not been done before. So when the letter came, we read it for what it meant. We knew the stakeholders, the conversations that are supposed to be had. Now, there are a few challenges that would come that we have to share with everybody. The first one is, who is a Lifeline customer? It's someone who uses under 30 kilowatts hours. Now, if that's the case, that means you are charging on consumption. But if you're charging on consumption, consumption is after the fact, after you've consumed. You understand? So now brings us to a problem of prepaid meters.
Correct.
A prepaid meter is a deposit. He hasn't consumed yet. So am I to charge the VAT before? And if it's before, that means I'm charging on the price that you are purchasing. Mm-hmm. If I charge on the price that you are purchasing, I will not know your true consumption.
But that's what I'm buying,
yeah.
And I will use that anyway.
Yeah, but that is not your true consumption. Consumption is after the fact. So, and you know, as they kept on saying, and as I'll use against you, you as a lawyer, a tax must be equitable. It must be fair. We have operational challenges. So this is something that has to be looked at clearly and spelled out. Because no matter what you do, there will be times where tariff will change. When the tariff is changed, there will be chaos.
So explain to me again, mm-hmm. If I enter the restaurant and I'm buying food, mm-hmm. I'm paying VAT mm-hmm. on that food I'm buying.
Yeah.
That I'm going to consume that food. It's not the business of the tax man.
But
so if I'm purchasing power credit, you just take the tax from it. Why should you say you don't know how much I'm going to consume when I've bought 20,000 worth?
Did you eat all that food? The food you bought, did you eat it all? I'm asking you.
That shouldn't matter.
It should matter because that's why there's a meter. That's the use of a meter. The meter is to calculate your consumption. Your consumption is your consumption. And you want your customers to have confidence in the bills that you are churning out.
For the prepaid user,
yeah.
If I purchase 20 CDs
yes.
credits.
Yes.
Are you suggesting to me I could use half of that and come to you and demand the other half?
No, because if you are buying 20%, that means if you are buying 200 cedis, am I to charge the VAT on the 200 cedis and add it to the 200 cedis for you to pay that deposit? Then that means I'm charging on price. That means I'm charging on price. I'm not charging on consumption. So if the whole country, let's say in uniformity, the whole country was on postpaid metered, yes, you could try something like that because everybody consumes. With that one, you consume, we read the meter, then. But that's not the case. So if you do this, a certain group of people are going to be burdened, others are not. And you have to even out the burden. You understand?
And you have more prepaid than postpaid. You are actually
now
going
we are
towards
50-50.
prepaid.
Yeah,
50-50.
Yeah, and now we are vigorously going towards what do you call it? Prepaid. So it's a conversation that needs to be had with all stakeholders. But again, everybody points to that. You see how the TUC boss said it's a bad law. It was passed in 2013. Nobody has implemented it. The mere fact that a law has been passed and somebody has implemented doesn't mean that the law is not valid. Now, we need to take steps to know why that law was passed in 2013 and what the framers of that section, what their thinking was. Mm-hmm. What interpretation-wise, what mischief were they trying to
What's
do?
Your understanding?
For me, it's too vague.
What makes it vague?
Read it yourself.
What makes it vague?
Because it
says that a supply to a dwelling of electricity up to a maximum consumption level specified for block charges for lifeline units. I thought that this is your language and you understood this.
It is too vague. Then that means if you are my best friend, all I'll tell you is what? This is how much 30 kilowatt hours cost. Every time, make sure that's exactly the amount of money you are buying in prepaid. Then that means what? You have circumvented the law. Then what has the law achieved? You circumvented the law. So that's what I'm saying. The law is too vague. What is the law trying to achieve? Because if to bypass 21%, everybody will be purchasing under I'll purchase right now, 30 minutes later I'll send my son to purchase again. Then we'll just make mockery of the law that we've put in place.
No, but you know, practically that doesn't work. There are many people who need electricity in a certain quantum and they can't afford to be purchasing 30 kilowatts, 30 kilowatts.
Those who need in those quantum are the commercial ones. They are already paying the VAT. They are already paying VAT because it's value addition to the business they are doing. So commercial owners, SLT, big bulk customers, they all pay VAT. But the conversation now is about residential, where you live with your family. It's your livelihood. You go to work, you come home. That's what I'm saying. We need to go back to the framers of this law to find out exactly what the thinking was. What mischief were they trying to cure? Why they said, because if we don't solve this, as you pointed out, water is right above electricity in that section. What's going to happen next? So we are saying there should be a broad stakeholder conversation where, one, if it's going to be implemented, how are we going to do it to make it across board? If it's going to be fixed, it's not going to be fixed. But we see the letter that came as a letter that's supposed to provoke conversation and also allow for us to come to the table to see what needs to be done and the right things put in place. So for us, as a company, it's working together with all our stakeholders, all our, as we always say, all our cherished customers to make sure that we can meet them at their point of need and then make sure when you are charging a tax, it is equitable in nature and everybody is comfortable.
But the laws that are referred to in the Act, Section 35, says exempt supply. The supply of goods and services specified in the first schedule, and that's where we have gone to read 9, which talks about electricity, and 8, which talks about water. The supply of goods and services specified in the first schedule is an exempt supply and not subject to the tax. Section 35(2). A supply of goods or services is not an exempt supply if that supply is subject to tax at the rate of 0% under Section 36.
Council, you see how you are suffering.
I don't get
when
it.
I say the law is vague, the law is vague.
Okay,
we need
I was sharing the schedule with you, but now we are reading the law itself. This is 2013.
It's too vague. It's
and
too
it doesn't
broad.
make sense.
It's 2013. So look out, the country is now in 2024. We need a broad stakeholder engagement. That is if we want to implement. And that's why I like what the finance minister wrote in his letter. Liaise. So go and sit down. Go and Jojo. Come back to me. You understand?
You were giving effective 1st January for it to kick in.
That means the liaison is still going on. The Jojoing is still going on. So if you... And I love the way everybody is jumping on. TUC is bringing their viewpoint. Fair Wages just spoke. Let's all sit down and let's all come to an amicable conclusion. And let's see what we want to do or what we need to achieve. That's what we are saying. But it's a difficulty, and it will be a nightmare. And you don't want to overburden customers in putting something in place where they will never trust their bills. If you, as is right now, we always have people challenging their bills, and we are trying to solve the problem. So we need to find a way to work together to make sure that the gap is closed quickly and we have a working formula.
So you are working to ensure that this is implementable. Because those are your instructions.
We'll go back to the finance ministry. As I said, I already had conversations with the energy minister. It's a policy directive. So when a policy, the corporate governance wise, if I'm not able to implement, I have to come back and state the reasons why I wasn't able to. But if you remember 2013, we were in a similar situation as a country. So those who passed the law, what was the thinking? Now we are where we are now. Is it something that's still valid? So sometimes when we are making laws, we have to be careful. That's the whole thing. Because if you pass a law that you can't implement, then it's going to stay on the books.
How soon do you expect that you finish your work on this?
We are going to have some conversations in the next 2 to 3 weeks. But however it goes, definitely will. But clearly, if we are going to implement, there would be an announcement.
All right.
So rest easy. It's not being charged now. Let's keep calm. I still like the conversations going on. Conversations are going to help all of us to get to a consensus. And then we can find a good way forward.
Okay. Thank you very much. But from the TUC, I can see that they want a firm commitment from government that this law will be abolished, or simply an announcement that it's been withdrawn. Their attempt to implement it has been withdrawn.
Well, you know, when you withdraw it, if the finance minister withdraws this letter, what stops another finance minister from implementing it? For us to come back to where we are.
This law has been in since 2013 and it's not been implemented.
That's why I said, if you have a law and you don't like it, or you have a problem, now the conversation has started. Let's all get to a consensus.
There are laws that were passed in the 2000s that have not been implemented, including ROPA.
If we are going to talk about laws that we've implemented, there will be a whole lot lecture.
All right, okay.
But let me take this opportunity to also do some advertisement for ECG.
Okay.
As for the 1st February exercise that we are starting on Operation Zero Consumption, please, 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 especially those on the postpaid meters, you are not paying your bills. And you not paying your bills is hurting us as a company, it's hurting the entire food chain. When the exercise starts, as I've already said, Samson, these days I don't have friends because I sell electricity. Please do your best to settle your bills. Go get onto the app, pay your bills, especially the postpaid customers. It's so easy now. All of you who feel your bills, you've been overbilled, there's a portion on the app that allows you to send in your meter reading for us to compute it and bring you the actual, and then we pass an adjustment. We do admit, and I must say on record, we do admit that because of some past readings, some of you have a wrong bill. So please do your best to either send us those readings or allow us to read the meter. I think some people just don't want us to enter their compounds for some reason. But
or just migrate to prepaid and...
But this year we are reading both prepaid and postpaid meters. Nobody should think that a prepaid meter shouldn't or cannot be read.
All right.
It's a meter that has to be read.
All right.
So those meters are going to be visited
once in a while. Once in a while,
exactly.
We get that happening. Okay.
Yeah. So
right.
This year, that's what we have on board.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Samuel Dubik Mahama is the managing director of the ECG, and we take a quick break. We return to the matter of the coup plotters, quote unquote, and the judgment of the court in that regard. We'll be right back.